All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Town of Los Gatos Planning Commission meeting of June 12, 2024. We are now called to order. As we begin the meeting tonight, I'm going to ask staff to make a presentation regarding the town's rules of decorum and civility.
Thank you and good evening. For the benefit of the community, the Town of Los Gatos asks that you follow the town's meeting guidelines while attending town meetings and treat everyone with respect and dignity. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's begin then with roll call. As I say your name, please indicate you are here by saying here. Vice Chair Thomas.
Here.
Commissioner Barnett.
Here.
Commissioner Burnett.
Here.
I just realized I put you two together. Commissioner Hanson.
Here.
Commissioner Janoff.
Here.
And Commissioner Meyer.
Here.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Barnett, can I ask you to lead us with the pledge this evening?
Be my privilege if you could all stand and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Now, as the Planning Commission conducts the meeting this evening, we encourage active participation of the public, which is essential to the important work of our commission. Public input is very much welcomed and is always considered. During our meeting tonight, there are two opportunities for members of the public to participate. During the verbal communications period, an individual may speak on any topic that is not on the agenda for tonight's meeting. And during the hearing tonight on any agenda item, any member of the public may speak about that item. And you'll be advised about the times when you speak on these items. If you wish to address the commission tonight during either the verbal communications time or when we consider an agenda item, please raise your hand in the Zoom app, or for those of you who are here, you'll find yellow cards out there in the aisles. Please print your name clearly, or if you are speaking anonymously, just write down your initials. When you speak, I ask that you come up to the microphone, adjust it, and speak directly into it. This is important because the meeting is being recorded. Also, when you are called to speak, please state your name and address for the record if you wish, or indicate that you are speaking anonymously. In fairness to all that wish to speak this evening, your time will be limited to 3 minutes. So tonight we'll begin with the verbal communications portion of our meeting, during which members of the public can speak about any item that's not on our agenda. You have up to 3 minutes to speak, and staff will let you know when your 3 minutes are up. So this evening, do we have anybody who wishes to speak on the verbal communications portion of our agenda? Mr. Paulson, anyone on Zoom?
There is not.
Thank you so much. Seeing none, then let's move to the consent calendar. Tonight we have one item on the consent calendar, being the approval of the minutes of our meeting of May 22, 2024. Before the Planning Commission acts on the consent calendar, any member of the commission may request that the item be removed. Commission members, are any such requests this evening? No, seeing none. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented? Commissioner Barnett.
I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you. Do I have a second on the motion? Yes, Vice Chair.
I second.
Thank you. Then with a show of hands, actually before, any comments? Seeing none, by show of hands, those who wish to vote in favor of the motion, please indicate. And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. All right, let's move then to the public hearings portion. We have two matters on our public hearings calendar this evening. The first, request approval for a private sports recreation club on property zoned C1, located at 15920 Los Gatos Boulevard, APN 523-01-011. Conditional use permit application U-24-005. The project is categorically exempt pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15301. The property owner is Carl Silker or Kilker. I apologize either way. And the applicant, Mark C. Egan. Before we begin, commissioners, by a show of hands, can I see those who have visited the site? Thank you all. And are there any disclosures on this item? Okay, seeing none, we will have a staff report. Ms. Shupin, will you be presenting this evening?
Well, good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before you is tonight is a request for a conditional use permit for a private sports recreation club located within the Cornerstone Shopping Center. The proposed use will operate as a fitness center with proposed operating hours of 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week. Due to the size of the building, the applicant is not proposing any outdoor recreation spaces. Additionally, the project is not proposing any exterior alterations to the design of the building and complies with the zoning requirements for the proposed use. There was a desk item circulated this afternoon with a clarification to condition of approval number 10 that the applicant comply with all applicable state and local building code requirements at the time of building permit submittal. This completes staff's presentation. However, we are available for any questions.
Thank you so much for that. Commissioners, any questions for staff on this matter? Yes, Commissioner Hanson.
Conditional use permits, as we understand it, run with the land. And so this use is changing from, I understand, I don't know what the current use is, but I assume it's retail of some sort since it was the drugstore and it's going to that. If the craze for fitness centers at some point changes in the future, do they have to come back and just ask for a change to go to something else? Is it that simple that they'd have to go for a hearing? I'm talking about maybe 5 years or so in the future.
So I apologize. So you were asking if the use were to change from a fitness center to what type of use?
Something that was, is it going to say, well, let me ask the question. Is it going to say fitness center or is it more general?
Under the zoning code, it's considered a private recreation club. And so that's what the use would be considered under the conditional use permit. So if another use were to come in and occupy this space, which was not a private recreation center, we would then go to the zoning code to see if that was a permitted use or would require a modification to the CUP.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, any other questions for staff? I just had one. I noted that in the conditions of approval, the proposed operating hours are 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., and I was curious if we had a standard in town for fitness clubs or what the norm might be, if you have any ideas on that.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So staff did take a look at some other gyms in town. The town doesn't have too many standalone gyms. We have quite a few group fitness classes, but the few standalone gyms we do have in town, for example, 66 East Main Street, just adjacent to Town Hall, that conditional use permit allows operating hours of 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. The Jewish Community Center, which has many uses, of which one is a fitness center, they also do have longer operating hours. So their operating hours allow for 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and 6 a.m. to midnight on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So the applicant's request is in line with many of the other CUPs in town.
Great. Thanks for all that information. I appreciate it. Commissioners, any other questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll then open up the public portion of this matter and I'll invite the applicant to come speak on this matter. I don't have a yellow card, but if you are here or on Zoom on behalf of the applicant, you'll have up to 5 minutes to speak. So is there anybody here in the audience? Okay, very good. And if you can just come up 1 second and just state your name for the record, just so we have our records complete for all those who may come after us.
Okay.
No, are you okay?
Hello? Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. My name is Mary Egan. I'm with Silker Orchards Management, and I'm the applicant. And were there any questions?
Thank you for attending. Yes, commissioners, Commissioner Mayor.
Yeah, so just so I understand, you're the applicant. Are you the owner of the property, or are you the owner of the proposed business that would be going into the space, or both?
We're the management company for the owners of the shopping center. We have an owner here as well, Keyston Smith.
Yeah, please.
Follow-up question. So is the conditional use request for marketing purposes, say you've done due diligence and your research shows that a fitness center would best be suited for this space, and that's why you're asking for the conditional use?
Yes, absolutely. This is the tenant we want. Yes.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Yes, Commissioner Burnett.
So the prior Rite Aid had truck deliveries, I think both in the front. I don't know if they did it off Carlton too, but my assumption is that there'll be no similar traffic or noise issues with respect to the gym. Is that correct?
That's correct. They will have no deliveries.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? No? Yeah, Commissioner Hanson.
I don't know that it would be an issue, but if there's fitness classes with a lot of loud music, it's partly a question for you and for staff. They would just be subject to our noise ordinance, right?
That's correct.
Thank you for that. And just to clarify, you're not anticipating any outdoor uses?
That's
Right.
correct.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Let's see. Now, any other members of the public wish to be heard on item number 2, that is the use at 15920 Los Gatos Boulevard? All right, seeing none. Mr. Paulson, is there anybody on Zoom? No, thank you very much. I would invite applicant again to speak, but I don't think, since you didn't have a presentation in the first instance and you've already answered our questions, I'll assume you wish to sit there and just watch our deliberations. So I'll close the public portion of this matter and invite my commissioners to ask questions, invite thoughts, or if appropriate, make a motion. Commissioners. No, I'll go ahead and begin. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Janoff.
Thank you. I think it's great use for the space. The vacancy from Rite Aid has been there for a long time, and it's not benefiting the town or the neighborhood in any way. So, and fitness centers that are a great benefit to the town. So, in agreement with the staff report that finds that all of the criteria that we are looking for it to be a welcome addition to the town have been met, and so I'm in favor of this project.
Thank you for those comments. Vice Chair, I think I saw your hand as well. Thank you.
I would just like to echo Commissioner Janoff's comments. I think that it would be a great use for the space and won't disturb the neighborhood and will benefit things, especially because there's other locations, like there's other properties and locations and businesses in that shopping center that will probably benefit from a little bit of increased traffic, and it will help with like people can get their grocery shopping done while they're there. So it's great to see something going in and not just things more vacant. And I think that looking at the staff report, there doesn't seem to be any issues. And I know that when CUPs come up often, the operating hours are the thing that we talk about the most. And I just want to confirm that just because with staff, just because the CUP is until 11 p.m., that does more often than not, businesses operate in smaller windows of their CUP.
That's correct.
Okay.
The CUP will just list those hours. However, the business can choose to operate and close sooner than the CUP allows.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Hanson.
I agree with Commissioner Janoff and our Vice Chair that, first of all, we like to see a use for that space. And if you kind of follow what's been happening through the rest of the town and many of our shopping centers, when a retailer or a restaurant vacates, there will be some kind of fitness center that goes in there. So it seems to be, a trend for using retail space. And that's a pretty big space, and it might have been hard to find someone else, so I think that's a valid space. I don't have major concerns about the operating hours, only that it is 11 p.m. and there is a neighborhood right behind them. But since they're exiting onto Los Gatos Boulevard primarily, it's probably not a big problem. But I belong to Los Gatos Women Rec, and we close at 9 o'clock. So it's a family-run business, but it's a very large health club, and Bay Club Courtside closes at 10. So I would hope that wouldn't get pushed to the edge of the envelope, but we want to give them flexibility to be successful.
Thank you for those comments. Commissioner Barnett.
Yeah, I have a couple of comments, and then I would offer a motion. The comments are that the parking is good. Usually that's a problem. With applications, I think the preservation of the design is excellent. It's very tasteful over there. And the use is compatible with the zoning and other requirements for a CUP. So with that, I'll move to approve the 15920 Los Gatos Boulevard conditional use permit application U24005, requesting approval for a private sports recreation club on property zone C1, categorically exempt pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15301. Existing facilities, property owner is Carl Silker, and the applicant is Mary C. Egan, and the project planner is Jocelyn Schupman. I'm so sorry, I've never done that before. I can make the following findings. The required findings for CEQA, the project is categorically exempt as previously indicated under section 15301. The project meets the objective standards of chapter 29 of the town code. The proposed use would not be detrimental to public health or safety or general welfare, as the conditions placed on the permit would maintain the welfare of the community. And the proposed use of the property is in harmony with the various elements of the objectives of the general plan and the purposes of Chapter 29 of the Town Code. The approval is subject to the modified conditions of approval in Exhibit 8 and the development plans in Exhibit 7.
Thank you for that very thorough motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Janoff.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you so much. Discussion. Commissioner Mayer.
Question for staff before we take a vote here. I love the idea. I mean, I think this is a perfect space for something like a gym or a fitness center. So I support the conditional use application. But I want to, think more broadly about sort of the future of retail. Obviously, Rite Aid wasn't doing well, so they vacated the space. And now retail spaces are becoming more geared toward experiences, whether they're food and beverage or fitness. And I just want to make sure that we can allow for maximum flexibility, because oftentimes you see what's happening with fitness centers these days. They aren't just places where you go to work out. They might have a spa element. They might have a co-working element. I know in the application they were talking about a potential juice bar, but I just want to make sure that if we grant the conditional use that, we allow for maximum flexibility, whatever what we call in architecture, like the program is of the space ultimately. So I'd like to hear your comments on that.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So yes, the juice bar component would be okay. That's why it was included in the description for the project, to say that it's a potential that the applicant's looking at doing, and it would really be ancillary to the main use, which is the private gym.
Thank you, and thank you for those comments. Yes,
Yeah,
Commissioner Mayer.
so if let's say someone came in with an application for a fitness center, but it also had, like, say, a spa component, or they wanted to do more than a juice bar, like maybe a cafe with food service, how would that require another conditional use? That's kind of what I'm asking.
So yes, as long as they're ancillary to the primary use, that they're for use by the clients, the people who are members of the private club, then those kinds of sub-uses can be incorporated.
Thank you. That's a great question. And would that come back to us, or would it just go through staff?
So as long as they are ancillary to the gym use and they kind of fall within that umbrella, then it would just be allowed as consistent with the CUP.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll take a vote by roll. Please, as I call your name, please give me your vote. Commissioner Mayer.
Yes.
Commissioner Janoff.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson.
Yes.
Commissioner Burnett.
Yes.
Commissioner Barnett.
Yes.
And Vice Chair.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. The vote carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Ms. Armour, are there appeal rights?
There are, thank you. The decision of the commission can be appealed to town council by any interested person as defined by town code section 2910-020 within 10 days on forms available online with fees paid. Final deadline is 4 p.m. on the 10th day.
Thank you so much for that. All right, let's move now to item number 3. Consider an appeal of the Community Development Director decision to deny a request to remove a presumptive historic property that is pre-1941 from the Historic Resources Inventory on property zoned R-18. Property is located at 32 Euclid Avenue, APN 529-30-064. The project is exempt pursuant to CEQA Section 15061 Sub B3. This is a request for review of application PHST-24-001. Property owner / applicant / appellant is David Wilson. In this matter, it has been continued from the May 8, 2024 meeting. I think we asked at the May 8 meeting, but I will ask again, commissioners, by a show of hands, can you show me if you've attended the property? Thank you for that. I'll indicate that they have. And are there any disclosures on this matter? Seeing none, Mr. Mullen, I believe you'll be preparing the staff report.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening. The subject property is located on the north side of Euclid Avenue and is currently developed with a single-family residence that was converted from a barn that served a larger property prior to subdivision. The county assessor indicates a construction date of 1900 for the residence, which therefore is on the historic resources inventory pursuant to town code. On November 15th, 2023, the HPC considered a request to remove the property from the inventory. After considering the staff report, public testimony, and presentation by the applicant, the HPC determined that there was not enough information to support removal and was unable to make the findings, voting 3-1 to deny the request. On March 27th, 2024, the HPC considered a new request for removal from the inventory. The applicant included a new letter of justification and a historical report to support their request. The report concluded that the residence is not eligible for listing at the state or national levels, and that the residence does not meet the town's criteria for historic resources aside from its pre-1941 construction date. The HPC was again unable to make the findings for removal and voted 2-1 to recommend denial to the Community Development Director, who denied the request on March 28th. The property owner appealed this decision on April 4th, and in their appeal, the appellant raises several concerns of how the HPC arrived at the recommendation of denial, including that the HPC demonstrated bias while operating outside their role, broke from the structure of the meeting, had their minds made up prior to the hearing, inaccurately disputed information included in the historical report, and contradicted the powers and duties of the committee. A full evaluation of each appeal point is provided in your staff report. In addition, the appellant submitted photos and an exhibit showing that a 1970s or 1980s addition made to the front of the residence resulted in a technical demolition. The town code defines demolition of a historic structure as removal or enclosure of the exterior wall covering on more than 25% of the street-facing facade or 50% of all exterior walls. The applicant's exhibit shows that the addition enclosed 45% of the original exterior wall, which resulted in a technical demolition. This information was not available to the HPC at the November or March meetings. And as a reminder, appeals are considered by the Planning Commission de novo. The hearing body may render a decision anew without reference to the conclusion made through the previous decision. Being a de novo hearing, the Planning Commission can include additional information in their consideration of the appeal. For the reasons stated in the staff report, staff recommends that the Planning Commission deny the appeal and uphold the decision of the Community Development Director to deny the removal of the presumptive historic residence from the Historic Resources Inventory. This concludes my presentation, and staff's available to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for that. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Yes, Commissioner Burnett.
Mr. Mullen, you indicated that this town's position has not changed from the May 8th staff report, which was to deny the appeal. And my question is, given the new information about the technical demolition, why is that not a factor to consider?
Thank you for that question. That's something that the Planning Commission can certainly consider. Staff's position typically with appeals is to bring forward the decision of the previous hearing body. In this case, the Community Development Director, on recommendation by the HPC.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair.
And so just to confirm, this information about the external wall, 45% was received after the Community Development Director's decision, and then after we continue, the staff report was written, and then we had a continuance and received this additional information?
Thank you for that question. The additional information regarding technical demolition was submitted along with the appeal and was included
Okay.
in the staff report for the, I'm getting my dates mixed up, but I believe the May 8th hearing. There was a continuance requested by the applicant, but that information occurred after the director's decision to deny the project.
Okay, but the technical demolition information was submitted with the appeal, not
That-
considered by.
That's
Okay,
correct.
thank you. Okay.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Janoff.
Thank you, Chair. Steph, could you, so this qualifies as a technical demo. Could you elaborate on what that actually means in terms of retaining the structure, not retaining the structure? If you could elaborate for that.
Thank you for that question. So from staff's perspective, when we look at a historic resource and we're presented with information prior to going to HPC or any decisions being rendered, that the structure may have undergone a technical demolition as defined by code. Staff, it's not a decision or a determination that staff makes. It would be forwarded to the Historic Preservation Committee, and we would be asking for their input and a recommendation for, in this case, because it's outside of a district, removal from the inventory. From a structural standpoint, the threshold for technical demolition on a historic resource is quite low. Simply removing or covering up 25% of siding on the front elevation is enough. So the structure could remain intact, structurally sound, and could be, in a lot of cases, brought back to its original condition. There's a number, I don't want to go too far, but there's a number of exemptions and allowances that can be made through the Historic Preservation Committee and the director for maintenance of historic structures that would exempt certain work from technical demolition calculations. In this case, the addition appears to have occurred prior to a historic preservation ordinance in the town, but the result appears to be the same.
So just to, in a nutshell, the ramification of it being declared a technical demolition is that it can be removed from the historic inventory. End of story.
It's certain, the technical demolition can certainly be used as justification to remove it from the inventory.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions for staff? I just have one. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Burnett.
Yes, question for staff. So I notice in our item number 3, there are no photos of the barn or the 32 Euclid Avenue in our packets. I hadn't found, unless I'm missing something here, for the commissioners to.
Yeah, my understanding is that was in the original packet from our earlier hearing.
Okay, so you did, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? One question for staff. I know the appellant has made the argument that 45% of the exterior has been modified or covered. Have we independently agreed with that figure, or do we have a different idea?
Thank you for that question. With HPC, staff's involvement and evaluation of the materials is not as in-depth as what the Planning Commission may be accustomed to, like under a architecture and site application. So the information was provided by the applicant. In this case, they provided some pictures showing the addition at the front being constructed in the 70s or 80s. And staff's typical position is that applicants are, it's the burden's on them to provide factual information to the town.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'll just remind my fellow commissioners, this is, I believe, our first time hearing under the new format, that is an appeal from the decision of the Community Development Director of a recommendation made by the Historic Preservation Committee. So we've already learned this evening that it is a de novo review, that is, we can consider all the evidence presented before us. But I just remind my fellow commissioners, this is a novel hearing before us tonight. So, yes, Commissioner Janoff.
Since it's before us de novo, do we need to make the same findings that HPC would make regarding the 5 required findings?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for staff? No, then I will open up the matter to our applicant/appellant. My understanding is he or she will be appearing via Zoom audio, and I'm going to apologize in advance. Our Zoom video is not working this evening, so we'll have audio only, and applicant will have 5 minutes to speak, whether they are in person or on Zoom. A combined 5 minutes will be allotted. So, Mr. Paulson, do we have someone on Zoom?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Mr. Mattioni, you should be able to unmute yourself and speak.
Good evening. Can you hear us? Yes, hello. Can you hear us? One more time. Yes, can the applicant, can you hear us on the Zoom?
They do seem to be unmuted, but we're not getting any audio from them.
One more second.
Chair, maybe we should take a little break. I'll check with KCAT.
Very good.
See if it's something that they might be able to remedy.
Sorry, council has.
If it works for the commission could choose to hear item number 4 before item 3.
Very good. So let us put a slight pause on item number 3. We have heard from staff, and we will open up applicants' 5-minute discussion when technical capabilities allow. And for the moment, then, let's move to item number 4. That is the review of the proposed development agreement procedures and recommended adoption to Town Council. Staff, is there a report on item number 4, please?
Thank you, Planning Commission. This is Gabrielle Whelan, Town Attorney, and this item is for the Planning Commission to make a recommendation to the Town Council on whether or not to adopt the proposed development agreement procedures. State law has a statutory scheme that authorizes cities and towns to enter into development agreements with developers. And what will happen under the development agreement is the applicant will be vested to the standards that were in place at the time their project was approved. And in exchange for that vesting benefit, the applicant will provide public benefits to the city or town. The town does not currently have development agreement procedures in place, and the state law provides that when an applicant requests that a city or town establish development agreement procedures, the city or town is obligated to do so. However, in adopting development agreement procedures, that does not commit the town to entering into a development agreement in the future. And so there are draft procedures attached for the Commission's consideration. They basically mirror state law. They provide what can be addressed in the development agreement, which will include the allowed uses, the allowed intensity or density, and a description of the public benefits to be provided. And then whenever the town does decide to enter into a development agreement, there will be a public hearing both before the Planning Commission and the Town Council to consider the agreement. And then in addition to that, there'll be annual review to confirm that an applicant is in conformance with the provisions of the development agreement. And so I'm here to answer any questions that the Commission has about development agreements in general or about the proposed procedures.
Thank you so much for that report. Yes, Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you for that. I do have a question about development agreements in general. I had 2 questions. Did we have a development agreement with the North 40?
Joel can correct me, but my recollection is that was accomplished with a specific plan, and so it was a zoning approval.
All right, I did remember we had a specific plan. I didn't know if we had a development agreement on top of that. The difference, since I worked on the plan development ordinance, the difference between the development agreement and the planned ordinance, I mean, are people wanting a development agreement looking to go outside of our zoning code, typically like they do in planned developments?
So usually people want it in order to vest to the standards that are in place at the time. And then sometimes applicants will ask for it because they want to provide public benefits as a selling point for their proposal.
So it is or is isn't different?
So the vesting aspect is different from the planned unit development process.
Because they were vesting to the development standards that are placed in time versus putting together a structure that
Yes.
includes any variations to the zoning code. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Chair.
Thank you for putting this together and making it as easy to understand as possible when it comes to these things. Would you be able to provide a couple of examples of what public benefits might be?
Sure.
Thank you.
So usually development agreements are entered into for very large projects. And so examples of benefits that would be provided would be a community sports field or a community center, or a park, or a playground, or a recreation facility.
And so might that include like improvement to some local infrastructure also, like
Yes.
bike adding, helping to add bike lanes and redoing some ped and bike infrastructure?
Yes. Okay. And it could also be subject to whatever. Right now, the town doesn't have a policy in place over what would constitute an adequate public benefit. Mm-hmm. But examples from other jurisdictions would include like landscaping and infrastructure.
Okay. And so in some areas of town that might also include like adding or connecting to the creek trail or something like that.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Janoff.
It doesn't appear to have any downside or any risk to the town. It looks like it's pretty much benefit unless we think our development standards are going to change dramatically and somebody sneaks in and I don't personally see that happening.
I don't see a downside with having the procedures in place. But I do think the town will only want to entertain development agreements if there's a lot to be gained, because there's a lot of effort that goes into drafting it and negotiating it. But having the procedures, there's no downside.
Right, and you mentioned that there's no discrete standard for what constitutes a public benefit. Will that be a next step?
Yes, and then, the town is perfectly within its rights to say what you've proposed doesn't really warrant a development agreement, and so we're not going to entertain your request for one.
And that wouldn't be challengeable?
No.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hanson.
I have an additional question. So this looks like just a structure for how you would go about doing a development agreement. So we're not, as Commissioner Janoff mentioned, there's really no downside to having this, because what would happen when this is adopted is that someone would have to propose a development agreement, and all the details of what would happen would be in that actual development agreement, whereas this just says this is what you need to put in it so that we would look at it. Is that the right way to think?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Burnett.
Yes, thank you. So question, to be clear then, all the large developments would have a development agreement?
No. So it's something that an applicant can request that the town consider. And so an applicant, in the past, applicants would ask for it because it was the only way to get vested to the standards that were in place at the time they got approved, that or a vesting tentative map. Now the state laws have changed, so there's other ways to get vested. And so like the SB 330 preliminary applications that have been submitted to the town have already vested applicants to the standards that were in place at the time that that preliminary application was deemed submitted. And so there's less and less benefit to applicants to having a development agreement, but the state law does say once we have a request to adopt procedures, we're required to adopt procedures. So it may never be used. Yeah.
Too bad, because it looks like a great agreement, the development agreement. So second question, so any large development that's coming before the town, it will come to the Planning Commission for review. Is that correct?
Yes, pursuant, because even, 'cause I think you're asking even separate and apart from anyone with a development agreement. Yes, they still have to get architectural and site approval and rezoning if that's required, any other planning approvals. And even if they had a development agreement, the project still has to come through Planning Commission and Town Council for review.
Thank you. Now, Commissioner Barnett.
Oh, thank you. So this is a theoretical question. I understand the government code requires that we adopt these standards at the request of an applicant. What if we do not do that?
So here's a theoretical answer. If I were the applicant, I would probably file for a writ of mandate to require the town to adopt the procedures.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? It seems to me then that this has been put forward to us as a recommendation. Is that correct? Or, I'm sorry. Thank you. Members of the public. Is there any member of the public, either on Zoom, assuming we're back up on Zoom, or in the gallery who wish to be heard on the proposed development agreement? None. Seeing none. Then I will close the public portion of this discussion. And again, this matter has been presented to us as a recommendation, I believe. So I think that it either presents before us to provide specific comment with respect to any changes we wish to see to this document, or if we see that it's usable as presented, to provide a motion in its entirety. Commissioners, any questions, or do I have a motion? Yes, Commissioner Janoff.
I would like to make a motion.
Please.
The motion is to recommend that the proposed development agreement procedures as presented to us tonight are forwarded to Town Council for adoption, recommended for adoption by Town Council.
Thank you for that motion. Do I have a second? Commissioner Hanson.
I second the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Yes, you may have discussion. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I just want to make these comments that in the past, the town has sought outside counsel on matters of great importance to the town, and I believe the development agreements or any new development coming before us in the near future will be of utmost importance with far-reaching effects on the town of Los Gatos. And given the complexity of these projects and state laws, we need the expertise of outside counsel on all projects coming before us. The Planning Commission task will be to review all these large projects and the development agreements initially, and then with periodic review every 12 months. And as a planning commissioner, I would like all information available to make the correct decisions on projects that impact our community and town. I printed this out. The outside counsel's task would be to look at all ways to benefit our jurisdiction and make recommendations, specifically that any agreement be consistent with our general plan, any specific plan, and compatible with zoning codes, and of course, the public benefit. I just think that this is a very, very important issues we're going to have to be looking at. And I think outside counsel that has expertise in this field would be a great benefit and help us make decisions to make sure that our town values and character are protected, and we can make the correct decisions on these very important matters.
Great. Thank you for those comments. Any other comments before we take it to a vote? All right. Let me put it to a roll vote then. As I call your name, please indicate your position on the matter. Let's begin with Vice Chair Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Barnett.
Yes.
Commissioner Burnett.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson.
Yes.
Commissioner Janoff.
Yes.
Commissioner Mayer.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Ms. Armour, I believe there are no appeal rights since this is a recommendation.
Correct.
Thank you so much. Mr. Paulson, how are we doing on Zoom?
We can give Mr. Mattioni another try here. So
All
let
right.
me allow him to speak and see if he's able to come through.
Very good. With that, let's reopen the public portion of item number 3. That is the matter of 32 Euclid Avenue, the appeal of a community development director decision to deny a request to remove a presumptive historic property from the historic resources inventory. Our applicant has a total of 5 minutes to speak. Is our Zoom caller available?
I'm going to try another avenue. Actually, I'm going to promote him to a panelist and see if that
Very good.
helps. Mr. Mattioni, you should be able to unmute yourself. Mr. Mattioni appears to be unmuted, but I cannot hear him.
Due to the technical difficulties, I would ask for a continuance if possible.
Very good. First of all, can you state your name for us for the record?
Alex Anderson, I'm a project manager for 32 Euclid.
Thank you. Thank you for coming this evening. I have no problem with your request. We do have a couple of other small items. Can we do those and then reopen public? So it may take 2 or 3 minutes, but I would. I have no problem, but I would ask my fellow commissioners about recommendation.
I don't. I was just wondering if you could maybe get the speaker like on the phone or get him to call in on. Oh, okay. Okay, no problem.
Sorry for the back and forth.
No, that's
Every
fine.
step out was an attempt to.
Okay.
No, very. And we're trying to get
That's
this.
totally
right.
fine. We just want to,
Today's date conflicted with a trial that he's involved in, so
Oh, okay.
Okay.
listening, but
Oh, but can't. Okay.
Okay, very good.
Well,
And
we'll try.
And we want to give
Yeah.
you the ability to put forward whoever you want. If there's somebody here you wish to use instead, that would be fine. But if you want to defer and wait for council, that'd be fine as well. Yes, Vice Chair.
If we decide to do a continuance, would we want to open the public hearing at all? Because there are possibly people here that physically came to give public comment, or how would that?
Yeah, my
best-
recommendation would be that the commission ask whether there are any speakers who can't be here at the next planning commission meeting, and if they're not able to attend that meeting, they can present their testimony tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. And then my follow-up question is, would you prefer that we do that now, or do you would want the staff reports and then revisit it? I don't know how much time you think you're going to spend on those matters.
I think we could ask the applicant just one more time if they want to try and speak. It looks like they kind of logged off and back on again, so it may be something has changed. Otherwise, I don't know that we're going to be able to resolve anything
Very good.
in the next couple minutes.
All right, Mr. Paulson, let's do one more try.
So, Mr. Mattioni, you are a panelist, and I don't see that you're muted, so if you want to go ahead and try to speak. Yeah, he just dropped off again. Here he's back now.
If we are going to do a continuance, we should probably get a date certain. Can I ask staff what date they would propose?
So we could check in to confirm they're available, but today's date is the 12th. The next Planning Commission meeting would be the 26th. Other options would be July 10th or 24th.
Would June 26th work for a continuance date? At least tentatively. I understand it's not all,
I appreciate the consideration. I would like to say yes, because we are at the point where I'm turning this over to my attorney. I'm hoping it works with his hours. So, without his ability to...
Mr. Mattioni, if you can hear Alex, can you raise your hand if June 26th works for your schedule?
Yeah, yeah, we do the first available date, exactly.
Alternatively, you could try to call Alex if you have that ability.
Okay, this is what I propose then. Before we vote on the continuance, this matter is also subject to public participation. In the event that this matter is continued, it's not clear that members of the public may be available to attend at a future hearing date. So I would ask any members of the public who wish to speak on this matter, who do not believe they will be able to attend a future hearing date, you may now speak at this matter for up to 3 minutes. If you wish to wait until a future time, that would be fine as well. Thank you very much. I see you approaching. If you could give us your name for the record, please.
Hello, Council. My name's Kevin Forbes. I live at 40 Euclid Avenue, which is adjacent to the 32 Avenue or Euclid Avenue property.
Right. And thank you for your patience with these technical issues.
So I've been a neighbor there for 31 years, and the house itself is kind of a hodgepodge of additions. It's hard to see where the original barn was, but just I've been a neighbor there. That's my observation, and since it's probably the 90s, there hasn't really been much in the way of maintenance. In terms of siding was added. Structure, the nails were non-galvanized. It's rusting. I don't know if you would even have a structure, valid structure if you tried to remodel it, how far you'd have to go down. So that's one question I have. But the applicant has endorsed, or actually serviced the neighborhood for opinion. The neighborhood is in favor of the project going forward. It betters the neighborhood. It's right now the property itself is unmaintained, it's rather ugly. We'd like to see it improved. It's going to improve property values. Hopefully we'll get a young family in there with kids and make it the Los Gatos it should be. So that's all I had.
Very much. And before you sit down, I'm sorry, commissioners, any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you again for your comments.
And then, Mr. Chairperson, I wanted to clarify that whoever speaks at this meeting tonight will not be able to speak again at the future public hearing.
Thank you. And, yeah, I tried to express that, but perhaps I didn't do it clearly. Members of the public will have a total of 3 minutes to speak on any agenda item, whether it's at this meeting or at a subsequent hearing. So if you wish to be heard at this one, please be advised you will not be able to speak at the continued hearings. Very good. And so I've seen one card get pulled for this evening, and you'll reserve your comments until next session. Thank you very much. I do have one more card. Mr. Gong, if you would approach and again state your name for the record.
My name's Steve Gong. I live at 30 Euclid Avenue next door to the property. And I just wanted to say that we're in favor of them redeveloping this house. Like Kevin said, it's been kind of in disrepair. I've been there for about 20 years. We knew the neighbor over there. We were helping her. Eventually, she gets to the point where she can't live on her own. And it's been empty for, the last 6 to 9 months, housing rats, who knows what now, termites. There were termites in there, too, from what I understood. But, yeah, it's going to be, it's probably better just being replaced at this point. If it's, I don't see, like he says, it's a hodgepodge. You guys have all been there, right? And it's kind of falling apart. So we just wanted to say we're in favor of starting over.
Thank you much for those comments. Before you sit down, commissioners, any questions for the speaker? No, seeing none. Thank you very much. Any other members of the public in the audience wish to be heard on this matter? Very good. Mr. Paulson, before we go to the applicant again, any members of the public wish to be heard on this matter on Zoom?
I don't see any hands raised. I know I did see Mr. Mattioni's video come on, so even if his audio may not work, we may be able to get a hand raise or something if he's available on the 26th.
All right, Mr. Mattioni will now redirect the communications back to you on behalf of the applicant. You'll have up to 5 minutes to speak, if you can.
So the applicant is unmuted. Mr. Mattioni, if you can turn your video back on, then we might at least be able to confirm whether June 26th would work for you for a continuance to see if we can get this working. He's nodding yes, that June 26th would work for him.
Very good. Then commissioners, given the technical difficulties, I would propose that we move this matter to the first available date, which is June 26th. In which time the applicant will be allowed to make their public comments, Staff, do we want to invite any further written comments, or should we indicate that written comments are closed?
Written comments can be submitted up until the time of the actual public hearing.
Very good. So additional written comments can be submitted up to the date of June 26th. And members of the public will also be again invited to speak to the extent that they have not already provided comments. So, Commissioner Hanson.
Just a follow-up to your question, if people that spoke tonight wanted to also write, and they can do that because they might have used up their 3 minutes, but they're still able to send in written comments if they wanted to.
Yes, written comments are always accepted whether or not someone spoke.
Okay.
Very good. All right, commissioners, any further discussion?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you very much. Then on this, because it's just a matter of continuance, by a show of hands, all those in favor of continuing the matter to June 26th? Thank you. And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. And again, apologies to all for our technical issues. Very good. That takes care of our public calendar. We now have the report from the Community Development Director or Department. Ms. Armour, do we have a report?
Yes, thank you. The only item to mention this evening is the successful adoption of the housing element last week at Town Council and submittal to HCD. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And again, congratulations to all on their hard work on that endeavor. Yes, Commissioner Janoff.
That is so not just an only. It's like, this is great. Thank you.
Yeah, it does feel like I should bang the gavel at that point, but so again, thank you to all. Subcommittee reports. In addition to their service as planning commissioners, each planning commissioner serves on a subcommittee. Are there any subcommittee reports of any meetings since our last planning commission meeting? No, seeing none. I believe then that finalizes our matter. So again, thank you to staff, especially during this difficult meeting. And I look forward to seeing everybody in 2 weeks. With that, this meeting is adjourned.